Welcome to Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul, 30 Minutes for God.
A podcast sponsored by Piedmont Road Church of Christ and Ministry League.
We're here to discuss Bible topics just as if we were asking Jesus himself. I'm Paul Sperlin.
And I am Les Sandifer. We hope you will enjoy our relaxed Bible-based discussions.
Thanks for joining us as we think about and talk about all the things we discuss with Jesus over a cup of coffee.
Welcome to our show, Coffee Conversations. As Paul said in the intro, we are here to talk a little Bible. We've got our Bible open over here. Jesus is with us through the Holy Spirit, bringing us the Word.
Correct.
And here we have it.
30 minutes for God.
30 minutes for God. And we have our coffee.
We do. It tastes so good in this cup, by the way.
Yeah, we have new mugs that have logos on them.
Mm-hmm.
Paul called it our teacup because
It's like a thimble.
they don't hold as much. But
If we were on video, you'd look and say, "Oh, those poor guys will have to stop halfway and get a refill."
yeah, that's a baby cup.
Sorry, Lord, we'll have to get more cups.
We have more cups.
We do. We got a bunch.
If you want a cup, let us know. We have a few. Then you have one with the logo on it. It's very nice.
You make a donation to the fund, which I've never said this before, but I will. Ministry League is only established. It only works by donations. We don't sell things. We don't. Have stocks, bonds, escrows, escargots, nothing like that. So
Escargot?
yeah, we don't have any of that crazy
Aren't those snails?
weird stuff on plates. Yeah, no. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, it is.
All right.
It is, but we don't have it.
Okay.
We don't have that stuff. We can't afford it. So we do live by donations. Ministry League lives by donations. So if you'd like to make a donation to Ministry League, let us know, and we'll make that happen. And then we can give you a coffee cup, as long as supplies last. How's that sound?
As long as supplies last. Did you get our email address set up?
I did not, but right now I really need to do that. But it will be lessonpaul@lifeinchrist.com, but or it could be lessonpaul@ministryleague.com. You tell me.
Me?
What sounds good? Yeah, sure.
Or the audience?
You?
Oh,
Not the audience.
Ministry League.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I will make a point to do that this week. But for now, if you have questions, comments, topic ideas, send it to paul@ministryleague.com, and we can take care of that. Entering into that, let's thank our elders and our good folks here at Piedmont Road for being one of our sponsors. Appreciate y'all so very much. Love our family here. We're able to host this show from the live broadcast studio here on 1630 Piedmont Road in Marietta, Georgia. So we're excited about that.
I wish you guys could see his face. You will one day. We're going to introduce a camera into
Let's
it.
go.
But he's got a big old smile on his face as he talks about our recording studio.
I do.
It's nice, though.
It is. We got stuff.
Paul, have you ever met anybody famous?
I have. I've met a few people.
Who'd you meet?
Okay, I got one I think it supersedes all of them, but I met Jeff Fisher before. I met Jeff Fisher. He was the head coach for the Tennessee Titans at the time. Yeah. He's no longer the coach of the Tennessee Titans. Let's see. Who else?
He's not the coach of anybody, is he?
He's not.
Okay.
He's out. Yeah, he's retired, I think.
Okay.
Never won a Super Bowl. Came within a football length of one against the Rams back in the day, but not so much. Who else?
John Smoltz?
I met John Smoltz. I met Dale Murphy, obviously. My hero.
Yeah.
Baseball hero. Oh, love that man. Good dude. Appreciate him. Wish he was in the Hall. He needs to be in the Hall, but there's a whole other discussion for a whole different kind of podcast.
Yes.
But the one I think kind of supersedes all those, just because he's a little more famous on the broad spectrum of things, is one Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I met Shaq at the Marquis Marriott in Atlanta.
Oh.
Before a Lads to Leaders convention about 10 years ago.
Was he there for Lads to Leaders?
I asked him that. I told him I have a spot. I could get him as a puppet coach or as a Bible Bowl coach of the people flipping the cards. And he said, "Thank you, brother, but I got to go to TNT and do some stuff."
He
said,
declined.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but
he seems like the kind of guy that would politely decline.
Yeah. I think if he had the time, he would have done it. Man, huge. And so I said, "Can we get a picture? Can we do a selfie?" He said, "Sure." And so I tried to hold my phone out.
No way.
And he said, "Hey, brother, let me take that for you, and I'll do that. My arms are longer." I'm like, "Duh." So he did. He took my phone.
Yeah, you need more range with him.
No kidding. And
get
I'm
it
like,
far
how
enough
do
out
I
to-
do this? He saw me struggling. I'm like, how do I get the top of your head and the bottom of mine
Yeah,
in the same thing? And
He's a foot and a half taller than you.
oh, easy. Oh man, what's he? 16?
No, he's 7 foot.
Seven? Oh, yeah, he's 7.
1 or 2, something
That's
like that.
crazy.
He's or maybe
Same.
no, I think that's about right.
Say what you
he's
want.
a big boy.
I mean, he played at LSU. Obviously, I wasn't a fan of him in college because obviously I'm not an LSU fan. But I will tell you, he is as genuine and cool a person in person as you can imagine. He was really neat. He talked. He talked to folks. Everybody's walking up to him. He was at the check-in desk at the hotel.
Yep.
As I was there, he was there. And this is like on Thursday.
Okay.
This is before everybody really figured out if you're going to Lads, go on Thursday. So he was there, and people were walking up, just talking to him and taking pictures, and he was just whatever I can do to help. I'm here for you. It was a really neat experience.
Well, I have the inverse story
Oh, okay.
of meeting somebody famous.
Okay.
It might partly be my fault.
Uh-oh.
I will admit it. But
All right.
but this gentleman has a little bit of a reputation of being not as nice as Shaq anyway.
I can, from what you said earlier, I get that, but go ahead.
So many years ago, I was doing some work for my company, and I was down in Boca Raton, Florida. And I walked into a hotel, and I was at check-in, and Pete Rose walked up to the counter. And, being a little bit starstruck,
Charlie Hustle himself.
not ridiculously starstruck, but I did like the Big Red Machine back in the day. I was
Sure.
a big fan of Johnny Bench,
Oh, yeah.
all that group.
Good guy.
He walks up, and I just started a conversation with him by saying, "Are you here to play ball?" Oh, yeah, your face says it all. Because at this point in his life, he had been banned from baseball.
Oh, no.
Yes. So maybe part of this is my fault, but he looked at me and said, ball. His exact words,
What year was this?
ball.
You didn't say what year it was.
I don't remember, but it was way back.
Was it while he was still qualified to play if he could have played?
No.
Oh, so it was way after that. It was like retirement age.
It was after they had kicked him out.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess he could have physically played.
Okay. So he
But
could
it
have
was-
qualified for it if he didn't. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Gotcha.
I didn't get your question.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Go ahead.
And I said, yeah, baseball. So, he snarkies up on me, and I snarky back on him. I said, yeah,
No.
baseball. And he just looked at me, and again, he says, no. And turned around and walked off. So I get in a conversation with the person that's checking me in. And I mean, 10 seconds after he leaves, it hit me. And I said, yeah, okay, that was a dumb thing to ask him. And they kind of laughed, but they said that he does his radio show. He owns the restaurant, or did at the time, own the restaurant at this hotel.
Okay.
And he did his radio show out of there. And he had a glass booth, so you could stand and just watch him do their radio show where he was at. But so somebody listening may think you guys have spent a lot of time talking about famous people you've met.
Yeah.
There is a point to this
There is.
relative to our show. And what we're talking about this week is a fellowship of equals.
Right.
And the idea that we're trying to emphasize the equality of all of God's people, not showing partiality,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right. Just another example of the picture of what Jesus was looking for when he thinks about the church. The dream of Jesus is the church, and it's just another example of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's right.
So the situation here, I think, just getting this started is what Les and I both have talked about who we've met before. One of the things we talked about when we did this, actually for our class, was, are you related to anybody famous?
Right.
Are you related to anybody famous?
No, I don't. I'm trying to remember how I answered that question when we've done it in class, and I don't know if we fleshed it out quite that way, but
I have people I'm related to that in like the kingdom work. It's
okay.
like, oh, that's impressive. Or
Yeah.
it's not impressive. It's just someone, it's whatever. But because I'm related to somebody that's a part of the restoration movement.
Oh,
And I'd have to go back and look at some of the stuff on that. My
Okay.
uncle knows more about stuff than I do, but it's kind of neat. Now, I'm not like a Campbellite or anything, but as far as related, I'm not related to Isaiah Campbell. That'd
Well,
be cool,
and
but I'm not.
It's interesting you even bring it up because one of the things I've always talked to the young people about is not over glorifying the people that they see in the sports world or in the music world.
Right. Yeah.
And as we get older, to me, it's more meaningful when you say to me, my father-in-law runs Lads to Leaders here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
Will that resonate with a 12, 13, 14-year-old that you're teaching Bible to? Maybe not.
Yeah.
As time marches on, I suppose it depends on how much time they spend at Lads to Leaders and whether or not they know Philippines. But
True.
if they know him,
Yeah.
then it might seem more important. But I do think that's one of the things we're talking about is really kind of de-emphasizing putting these certain people on a pedestal.
Exactly.
And recognizing that we're all God's creation.
They put pants on the same way we do, one at a time.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep. And and the flip side of
thing.
that, of course, is right that some people we look at and go, I'm not sure I really want to interact with them.
Right.
Are also God's people.
Why do some pretentious people want to seem to behave more superior than others?
Yeah.
It's like the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and it's like, why do we see this? What's going on? That's a whole other thing, but it's just the whole life's not fair situation. It's like, why are you a punk and good things are happening to you? It's like, I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. I'm like, well, guess what? That's life. One day it'll all make sense, but that's not what this is for.
Well, and maybe sometimes it's just our perspective, right?
That's true.
I mean, we talked about it on one of the previous podcasts, like talking about Elvis.
Yeah.
I mean, Elvis appeared to have it all.
Yeah.
But he's dead at 44.
And he had humble beginnings.
He
just let the wrong people push the buttons.
Yeah. So maybe sometimes all we see out there that we think they're getting isn't all that.
Right.
Sometimes.
Right. But with this discussion, continuing the dream that Jesus had, he envisioned his church at a place where everyone's the same.
Yep.
Everybody is the same. Everybody sits at the same table. Nobody's any better than anybody else. And I will say this, and I know this is stepping out a little bit as a minister, but I don't like putting preachers. I'm a connections minister, youth ministers. I don't like putting those people, elders, on such a higher level. I mean, elders maybe, obviously, they earn that right to be an elder, but
right.
I'm not any different than anybody else in church.
Yeah.
I get my paycheck does come from the plate they put in, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
But I just want to be a sheep. I want to be just like the rest of those folks trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you feel like when it's all said and done, you're going to be held to the same account.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I went to school. I have degrees. I mean, I've earned those things. I worked hard for those things.
Yep.
And I do have some experiences, and that does help the church, I think. I feel like it does.
By the way, I did see it on your wall this time. Paul chastised me for
I
not
didn't chastise. Now you're
in my
throwing me
office.
in.
How do you not know?
You're throwing me in the pretentious category.
No, it wasn't a pretentious thing. It was just like, me. We're friends,
true.
and yet you don't even know what's on my
you
hanging
sit
on
in
my
that
wall
chair. I set people in that chair on purpose.
By the way, I don't have as much paper on my wall. I wasn't that good a student.
Yeah, you're still.
But that's a different story. But yeah, and the concept of fellowship of equals.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a good discussion because we can have those things in our life, in our personal life, but in the end, it's about not showing partiality. James talks about just this idea of people coming in that may have on this or that they're wearing, and we may give them more regard than somebody that comes in that has less.
Right.
And may not want to interact with them the same way. I mean, in the end, that's part of our challenge in life is to not show partiality to some for the wrong reasons.
Right.
To kind of see us all as equals in God's eyes.
Yeah, and we all have our niche. We got that thing we enjoy.
Yeah.
When it comes to whether it's teaching or leading singing or serving in other areas, there's different things, and that's the great thing about the church, the kingdom, is that we need everybody to do different things.
That's right.
Bring your talents. If we learn anything from the story of the 3 talent situation is when you got something, you got to use it. Don't flaunt it, but use it. Don't bury it. Use what God gave you. If you don't use it, you will lose it.
And if you have a particular talent, don't think it more lofty than the next talent.
Right.
that somebody else is using.
Yeah, so don't hide it, but also share it if you have it, and don't be weird about it.
That's right. Don't be weird about it.
Don't be weird about it.
That's exactly right.
So we start here in Matthew 23.
Yep.
Matthew 23, basically, beginning there in verse 1, when Jesus is with the crowds and talking to with his disciples, he says, the scribes and the Pharisees, they sit on Moses' seat. So do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the works they do, for they preach, but they do not practice. You know, that they talk about a good thing, but they don't really do it. It's like, do what I say, not what I do. They tie up heavy burdens that are hard to bear. They lay them on people's shoulders, and they themselves are not willing to do those things, and they point the finger at people for not doing it. And that's kind of how the passage goes through. It's like, if you're going to say this thing, you better live that way. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with. So we talk about those leaders who don't practice what they preach. So let's go with that.
Yeah, and thankfully we don't have that here. I mean, for the most part.
Oh, right? Yeah.
That's Piedmont Road. I'd say for the most part. We don't have that. I mean, we have guys that
if they do it, they're going to fall through.
That's right.
Yeah, they got to get the fall through. I like that.
And they lead by example. They lead by interaction. They lead by what they do.
Right. Because that can hurt.
Yeah.
If you say, you know, we're going to do a certain thing and you don't do it, I mean, people observe these things.
Right.
Oh, my word, they observe these things. This is probably, in any congregations I've ever worked with in the past, probably won't like what I'm about to say, but I don't care. I receive more encouragement through my work I've done here than anywhere in my career.
Oh.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, that's cool.
They don't post it on Facebook. Sometimes they do. You know, I get a lot of, you know, you and Jake are the yin and yang. You are so different, but we're so glad both of you are here. You do different things. I appreciate that. But you know, they'll send me some little texts. You know, they'll say things and do things, and even with our class when we do, they'll appreciate how we do it, to give them a chance to talk, and they love the following the running after rabbits thing, and I'm like, that's our bread and butter. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
so let's go.
Sometimes you got to chase it.
You do. You can't sew it up if you don't go through it.
Yeah.
You know,
so that's exactly right.
So that they do. They show so much encouragement, and I think that drives us to do more.
Yeah.
Right. So when you say things and you preach things and you teach things and you do stuff, you want to show that follow through, because you're teaching that also. We got all these teenagers who are watching us. We teach this class. After it's over, they're still watching what Lesson Paul does.
That's right.
You know?
Yep.
So there's an effect there. And it's not just the kids. It's the adults. You know, it's everybody. And it's good. It's a give and take.
And it really is. It really is an important lesson for all of us that we're always a leader to somebody. Mm-hmm. Somebody's always watching what you do and whether or not you're doing exactly what Jesus was warning against here.
Right.
Whether or not you're actually practicing what you preach.
Right.
Doing what you say.
Absolutely.
I can remember my dad growing up would say, I mean, he would say something along these lines, right? Do as I say, not as I do. Mm-hmm. And he'd almost say it tongue in cheek, because in the end, I mean, he wasn't really trying to teach me that lesson.
Yeah.
But he was trying to emphasize to me that I needed to follow his guidance. But really following the guidance of, or the leadership of somebody that is in that role is tied to seeing them actually do it themselves. If we look at our leaders around us in society, we are certainly not going to feel confident that whatever they're telling us we need to be doing, that they're doing too.
Right.
Because that's almost always a different concept with them.
Okay.
In a lot of ways.
For sure.
Political leaders, or, you know, just people in authority sometimes don't do all the things that they should do. We're human. I mean, it's the nature of it all. But we're talking, and really I wanted to kind of frame it. We're talking about within our church body.
Right.
That's really where we're watching people and seeing what they do.
So there's a need there too.
Yeah.
There's a need to be the receiver of the ministry. There's a need to be the giver of the ministry. So let me give you a couple of things.
Yeah, good
Ministry 101. Here we go. Everybody needs a Barnabas.
Okay.
Everybody needs somebody in their life that encourages them and helps them.
Yep.
at the same time, everybody needs a Timothy. You know, we need somebody we can help, people we can encourage. Just since we've been here, just over the past 3 years, we got people that are teaching that weren't teaching when we first got here. Because of the work we've done. You know, as a group, this is how you teach. Sit down, be a part of this, and join in just from the educational perspective. But like for us, I know sometimes on our show it seems like a lovey-dovey thing between the two of us, which is fine. I don't care. But you know, because we encourage each other. We're there for one another. So we kind of Timothy Barnabas each other because you need somebody to help, but you also need to be helped. And I think we as people need to grow in the aspect of being the person, regardless of the situation, because things change. Right? Maybe you're having a weak day. You're like, what do I do here? What do I do here? You need somebody to Barnabas you a little bit.
So we're told that Jesus sent them out 2 by 2. If I'm using that might even be the King James version of the phrase, but he's sent them out in twos. And I don't think I've ever thought about this until your comment just now, but did they choose who they went with?
I don't think so, because was it John Mark? I mean, he was sent in a different direction. I mean, Paul he changed things up, right? Now you had him and Silas. Obviously, they were in prison a lot,
right?
He and Barnabas, occasionally, but he and Barnabas also had discussions about who was going where.
And they got a little sideways.
They did,
and they split their.
They did,
which is it's kind of a different life lesson. It's not really intended to frame this idea of not showing partiality, because one thing it does help us understand, and maybe we can come back to it on a different episode. But one thing it does help us understand is that even these strong, faithful men sometimes disagreed. And sometimes that disagreement led to them making a positive choice for the gospel. So Paul and Barnabas decided to go in 2 separate directions because they couldn't resolve the thing that they were debating, and that was over John Mark. Barnabas had an opinion. He took Mark with him. Paul had an opinion. He brought, who was it in that case? Was it Silas?
I thought it was. I thought it was, I think so.
So anyway, it's kind of a side thing, but what was going through my head was maybe sometimes the twos you go out in, well, there were 2 thoughts. Sometimes the twos you go out in are not necessarily of your choosing, but you have to develop that relationship with this person. The other thing is they weren't alone.
That's true.
That is the single most important thing I take away from that.
That's true.
We are not in this process alone. So when Paul and Les are sitting here and we're having these conversations and we're encouraging one another and we're teaching one another and we're admonishing one another, all of that's happening just like we're singing, in a worship service, but it's all happening
together.
The most fundamental thing about it is we're not in it alone.
Right.
So the 2 of us are working together to accomplish something without showing partiality, without all the other things that go with it.
And things change. Things, like you said, they may have started a certain way, but they may have ended up in a different way.
Yeah. That's right.
Because Paul did come around when it came to Mark. I mean, he came around.
That's right.
It just took some time and took some discussion and took some little experience making, to get there.
Yeah, and there's another path woven back into the conversation. But I mean, they got back to a place that was better all the way around.
And that helped the consistencies, I think, of leadership and showing this is how you do it.
Yeah.
But then we get to the flip side of that, which is what we're about to talk about now, is that's the inconsistencies in leadership and how it affects members and non-members if not handled in the right way.
Yes.
So that needs to, so be careful. If you serve as an elder, serve as a deacon, or anybody really, in whatever area in which you lead, make sure you're doing it in a Christ-focused way.
Yeah,
otherwise it's going to bounce back on you.
Yeah, it's absolutely a great point. And it drills down all the way to us as members because there are times where we're going to have disagreements and really when you go back and look at the Paul thing, it was a disagreement over something that wasn't related to doctrine or salvation.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't related to that.
Right.
It was a personal opinion. We're going to have those. We certainly don't need to be the scribes or the Pharisees who kind of tried to lord it over, if you will. I'm using air quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Tried to lord it over everybody and say, this is the way it has to be.
Sure.
So as Christians, we can, and again, everybody's watching.
They are.
So if we're going to have that disagreement with somebody,
they are.
let's do it in the way that is Christ-like. And
be ready for whatever.
yeah,
I mean, somebody may come to you.
Flexibility?
Yeah, exactly. Be ready for somebody comes to you with encouragement, but also be ready if they come with admonishment.
right.
You know, because if they see something they don't like, they're gonna question you about it and ask about it. You did this way. Is this the right way? Is this the best way? Is this the best situation?
It's a great point.
You know,
Boy, it's hard to take it.
I know.
Sometimes.
I know.
When
It is.
somebody,
You talking about growing?
they
We're
get
trying to.
They get up in your business.
It's like jump back,
I've had a few. I have had a few of those experiences in my life.
jump back, count to 10.
Yeah, I don't necessarily jump back and count to 10.
No, I don't either.
I've gotten better.
I mean, yeah. Honestly,
I'm
it
not
depends what it
fixed.
is.
It does depend on what it
Right?
is.
It's like, dude, this is I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about humility.
It really is.
It goes back to the cross-centered thing.
Yep. Yeah,
Sure.
it absolutely does. So maybe that's a good breaking point
Yeah.
for today. We'll get back into Matthew chapter 23 next time around. We'll talk some more about this idea of not showing partiality in our lives.
Right. For Les Sandifer, I'm Paul Sperlin. This has been Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul, brought to you by Piedmont Road Church of Christ and Ministry League. Thank you for being here with us. We look forward to being with you next time, and join us next time and share this podcast if you can. But we look forward to being with you next time on this show for that next cup of coffee.